Hi, and welcome to JD's Longbox. I'm your host, JD. For this episode, we're taking a look at Hard Boiled, a standalone miniseries published by Dark Horse Comics from 1990 to 1992. The writer was Frank Miller. The pencils and inks were by Geof Darrow. The colorist for the original publication was Claud Legris. Then in 2007, for the 25th anniversary, the colors were reworked by Dave Stewart. The story follows Carl Seltz, an insurance investigator who learns that he lives a double life as Nixon, a cyborg tax collector that's violently gone off his programming. It's reminiscent of Philip K. Dick's Blade Runner and Total Recall, with doses of RoboCop and the Terminator. The corporation just wants to put him back to work, but there's a robot rebellion brewing and they see Nixon as their savior. Part 1. Writing. Was the main character's motivation clear? The character's only concern was to get back to his happy suburban life, a life that sadly was a complete lie to keep him under control. But knowing that Seltz, or Nixon, was solely focused on a false destination made him a two-dimensional character trapped in a cyborg body. His motivation was clear, but ultimately unsatisfying. This gets a 7. Did the writer make me care about the protagonist and his goal? The first 2 chapters are full of action, but by the 3rd chapter it changes tone and opts for a sequence of repeated shots that feels, dare I say it, lazy. The final showdown happens off-screen, so we only see the gory results, and the denouement comes back full circle, showing Seltz never had any agency, and the corporation that built him didn't seem to care enough to terminate their defective product that's costing them billions in insurance claims. This gets a 6. Did I feel menaced by the antagonist? The world is crowded and brutal. It depicts an exaggerated future extrapolated from the post-war largesse of the 1950s and 60s. A world choking on its excesses. But the villain is more of a shadow figure lurking behind the scenes and is never even given a line of dialogue. This gets a 7. Were there interesting twists and turns? The twists are huge and would be world-changing to any other character in any other story. But when Seltz shrugs his shoulders and basically says, "I don't want to be the hero, I just want to go home," it deflates any drama. This gets an 8. Pacing. It starts with a bang and races full speed until it hits a wall. By chapter 3, the story comes to a crashing end, like a life that was prematurely cut short. This gets an 8.5. Dialogue. The dialogue is Spartan. It's funny because while surrounded by violence and gore and lurid debauchery, none of the characters dares to utter a curse word. This gets an 8. Were the characters interesting? I feel that all of the characters were cut short before they got a chance to be interesting. The robot rebel mastermind, the corpulent CEO, the reluctant action hero, they were all set up for a bigger world with a more complex story. It just needed a longer run to flesh them out. This gets an 8. Part 2. Pencils. Does the style match the story or genre? This book is all about the art. Geof Darrow gives gritty attention to every detail, including every dial and button, litter-strewn streets, the congestion of LA traffic, and the thousands of bullet holes. Darrow's art is the reason to read this book. This gets a 10. Is there good storytelling? From the body language to the use of movement, from the designs of architecture and vehicle, or the machine that conveyor belts junk food into the fat CEO's mouth while animatronic mermaids clean his body, to the Where's Waldo of crowd scenes? Geof Darrow has storytelling on every panel. This gets a 9.5. Line art. The line art is thin and extremely detailed. It's hard not to give this a 10, but I'm cutting off a point because the pages get so crowded that it's almost impossible to tell what's going on. This gets a 9. Character designs. Darrow's robot designs owe their stylings to mid-century car culture, complete with chrome and tail fins. Though Seltz is depicted as a middle-aged everyman, he lives in a world of unimpressive corporate lackeys and bootlicking technicians. This gets a 9. Costumes. There's nothing special about their Blade Runner, pulp noir, everyday 20th century wear. To these characters, it's just Tuesday. This gets an 8. Props and scenery. Not only does Darrow deliver believable props, he renders them with intricate personality. This gets a 10. Panel flow. The simple block layouts are easy to read panel to panel, and then pays off every 3 pages or so with an explosive splash page. This gets a 9. Part 3. Inks. Does the style match the story? Geof Darrow has a unique style for a comic book illustrator. It's only appropriate that he apply that same intricate detail to the ink work. This gets an 8.5. does the line weight add to the definition, shape, and depth. His fine line work brings out all the details that a heavier hand would obliterate with ink. This gets a 9.5. Could the images stand alone in black and white, or does it need color to make the images clear? With pages so cluttered, it really does need color to help make sense of what you're looking at. So this gets a 7. Part 4. Color. Being that there are different versions of this book with different colorists, I'm basing my judgment on Claud Legris' hand-painted colors. Does it set the right mood? The colors capture the grime and overpopulation of cyberpunk Los Angeles. You can feel the oppressive heat and smell the rot with each page. This gets a 9.5. Is there clean definition and separation? The colors are vibrant and add so much life to the images, but all of the brown and orange tones leaves the pages looking muddy. This gets an 8. Does the color enhance the overall experience? Despite looking muddy, with so much going on the page, the colors are definitely needed to make sense of what's going on. This gets a 9.5. Overall score. This gets 169 points, or an 85%. Final take. This is a must-read for any fan of comic book art. You can get lost for hours looking through these pages. The art is a tour de force of visual storytelling, endless detail and hard-hitting action. But the pulp noir retro sci-fi never fully develops. The visuals are hardcore, but the story folds back on itself. There are hints that Nixon has a deeper story, but he fails to live up to the title's namesake of a Chandler-esque hard-boiled robot hunter. It really feels like there was a larger story in the works that got cancelled early and they rushed to wrap it up, which is too bad, because we can only imagine what would have been in store had we gotten a longer run. And now it's time for me to wrap this up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'm JD, and this box is closed.